Hello. This is Kat Farrance. I'm founder of Movement for Modern Life. And I'm very, very chuffed to be here. Hopefully, I'm going to be joined by Nadia Jelani, who is the yoga dissident, in a minute. Now, you are going to have to be a little bit patient with me because despite running an online yoga platform, I actually have no technological skills apart from those which I have learnt along the way. So I'm going to now invite Nadia to join. Yay! And should be going live in half a second. Hey, thank you for your waves. I really appreciate you supporting me. And we are now waiting for the yoga dissident. So the reason why, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. Oh my goodness,
Hey,
it's Nadia. Hey, how are you?
great. Good to be here.
Oh, I'm really excited to chat. I was just starting off by saying the reasons why I thought it'd be nice to have a chat with you. Basically, it's because it has come to my attention that I have got a lot of learning and listening to do in life in general. I've been doing a home yoga retreat with Movement for Modern Life, and it's been brilliant because there's been a lot of self-inquiry, but I've felt a lot of gaps. And I think the worst thing you can possibly do is start to call on your friends and say, "Here, tell me about the gaps." But what I thought might be nice is because I have got so much to learn, I thought, well, maybe there'd be others who would like to join me in a conversation where we find things out together. So we can kind of go on a bit of a journey, a bit of an exploration.
Yeah.
And Nadia, I'm hoping that you're going to be the first in a series of conversations, which I'll be able to have with various people who have got various interesting viewpoints, different things to say about the world of yoga. And I flipping love the things that you do have to say. I've been following you for ages. And well, we know each other personally from the real world.
Yeah.
Not yet off of the real world is actually a real person, as well as having an incredible voice within the yoga industry and saying some super important things that need to be said in a very punchy and fun way. So all the MFML people, go to the Yoga Dissident right now and find out all the interesting things that Nadia is talking about. The way that you frame things is always within these cool, punchy, like tabloid-esque things, but also you
Yeah.
know both. So thank you for joining me, Nadia.
It's a pleasure to be here. I hope, can you see me okay? I'm sitting on two meditation cushions because lives can be quite, the way that we're stacked on top of each other. As long as you can see me and hear me okay, then we'll carry on.
I can see you great. It'd be lovely to have some thumbs up from the people to see if
Yes, it will
this is
be.
working out for the people too.
Just before we start having our amazingly in-depth convo about all the important stuff, great,
All
I'm seeing
the
some thumbs up. So,
Yay! This is
yay, Pam's
cool.
in the house. Great.
Awesome.
Liz Fox,
Awesome. This is
brilliant.
cool. And guys, it's lovely to see you here. We'd love it if you'd ask questions. So yeah, get lined up with some questions soon. Just to kick off, I wanted to talk about one of your posts, which is something that's really fascinated me for ages, which is when you talk about yoga being a political issue.
Yeah. So, do
Because,
you want
yeah.
me to explain that? Okay, so
Hmm.
it's interesting because the reason I think it's political issues, I've got this graphic that I made that I'm really pleased with, which has got a list of words. It's a political issue because of, history, because of where it comes from. It's an old tradition, it's an old practice, it's because of cultural appropriation, it's because of what's happened to yoga. It's also because Western yoga is so expensive, so there's a class issue. There's all of these things are political, and I'm a
Hmm.
politically minded person anyway. It's not party political, but it's political because yoga is a kind of lens through which all these other things can be looked at. And I mean, that's as simple as that. And it's also like, I've been practicing a long time, and I think that we'll probably come on to this, but because part of the cultural appropriation thing is that, you know, what yoga's become. And for me, yoga's become like this quick fix self-care thing. Not for me, but from my perspective, it's become like an exercise thing. And I kind of sometimes wonder, you know, I don't like, let's just call it yoga size and be done with it, rather than pretending it's this kind of profound philosophical mind body thing when it isn't anymore. I think that's a political issue, because that's what it was intended for. I always say that yoga is a practice for self-inquiry, which we all agree on, right? But then it's just got covered in all the kind of other stuff, like you know, it's expensive, it's been commercialized, we need to buy all these props, we must shop. It's where's the yoga? So it's, I don't know, it's political for lots of reasons, but I think the class, the race, you know, the diversity issue, the fact that most teachers are white. I mean, I've probably said a lot of stuff there, but there's so many different, you know, I mean, I feel very strongly about the fact that it's a political issue, because I should probably stop talking and let you say something, but you know, I mean,
No, you shouldn't.
It's so interesting to me, because I didn't realize that was going to be a controversial statement, and actually it is. You know, so many people, more people, I get more support. I was really surprised by the amount of support that I had when I first started saying these things, after thinking about these things for a long time, and started sharing them, testing my ideas out on Instagram, and it was a real polarized. There are loads of support. The support has eclipsed the you know, the negative response, but you know, it's really shown people who really support me, and then I sort of have equal support and equally people who are repelled by things I say. So but you know, it's like Marmite, isn't it? I mean, it's okay. I'm glad for the people who support and want to come along this journey. I'm learning as I go along as well, you know.
Yeah, cool. I like that. I think, yeah, that's it's part of yoga, isn't it? To be learning along the way. Gosh, you have said so much. There's so much to unpick there. One thing that you said in one of your posts that I flipping loved, because I got a real visceral reaction when a really highly respected yoga teacher said, right now I'm not engaging with the news because it just makes me feel upset. And I kind of felt really kind of gut-wrenchingly upset about that, because I think that with so much inequality in the world, like, how can we're doing a practice which gives us all freedom, right? Like, how can we be free if your neighbor isn't? It's just, how is that going to make sense? So yes, it's really upsetting that there's upsetting stuff going on in the world.
So this yoga teacher said this to you recently?
She said it on social media, and she got a ton of support from people saying, yeah, me too, I'm also hiding my head in the sand because I feel that things are really scary out there. And sure, they're scary, but I mean, I'm also a political person. I feel that, like, yoga is kind of activism. We need to engage.
Well, this is a massive, I mean, what she said there, and this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of stuff that I would see and I would call out, you know, and these are the same types of people, by the way, who come to me and remind me that they tell me that I'm not practicing ahimsa because of the things I say.
Oh, really?
Somebody the other day said to me, they love these teachers who want to disengage. I talk about being engaged. We have to be engaged in what's going on in the world. Otherwise, what are we practicing for? Like, what is our body for, other than to do good in the world? And the whole thing of not being violent towards yourself, I think, has been taken too far. Like, we're so obsessed with taking care of ourselves. You know, the ahimsa is, sure, it's inward, but it's also outward as well. The non-violent tenet, just for anyone, the tenet of being non-violent, just for anyone who needs to know. But I think this person is exhibiting deep, profound privilege. You know, to be able to put your head in the sand is a huge privilege.
Yeah. Right.
You know, so yeah, I mean, I'll just leave that there. I mean, it's so I mean, you know, being able to just go away and just to not worry about what's going on. When Black Lives Matter kind of really started having its current, you know, wave, I was devastated. I was in tears when George Floyd was murdered. I think it just, the world has been, because it was so graphic, the video, and then this has been an issue that I've been involved with for many years, and then to suddenly see it, it's brilliant that, you know, the world now wants to stand up, but it really, you know, I just think, how can you disengage? This isn't the time for us to get to stay shocked for too long. This isn't the time
Mm-hmm.
for us to kind of go and do our self-care for too long. It's really important as a campaigner, because I do sort of see myself as a campaigner, and I do burn out regularly. It's really important to take care of yourself, to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what this person said to you, that's disengaging and not being a part of, like you say, if we're not all free, how can no one's free until everyone's free, like you say. So,
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I like that. We've got Yoga with Laura has said, engage your banders, but nothing else. Yeah, exactly. It's like, what is the point?
totally.
And that whole thing about self-care, I've always found a little bit nauseous making. And again, I was kind of unable to see why. So it's quite interesting now for you to be able to, you've thought about this and voice why it is that self-care makes us feel a little bit nauseous and like things like maybe it's not okay to be constantly like having Epsom salt baths and thinking everything else is totally cool. Um, yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more of your chat about self-care because I think it's cool and pretty radical actually.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I know that I can be quite pithy and it might sound, I mean, everything I put on Instagram is quite considered. These are things, opinions that I've been formulating for quite a while. And then it
Mm-hmm.
was just a case of like, let's test them out there. Nobody really wanted to listen to me. And then I think it was, during lockdown, I started and I have got a background in journalism. So, the tabloid vibe is kind of coming out. And one of the things I sort of, so I think about this a lot. I think about this stuff
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And I guess I was thinking about this idea of self-care and this idea of the self. And, we talk about learning about ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
self-inquiry. And so it's almost kind of turned outwards without going too far. I don't know if this metaphor's gone too far, but it's kind of like it's a practice of inwards that's been turned outwards. And it's kind of like we're kind of focused on the things that we need to make ourselves feel better on the outside. And, often it's the diet stuff, plant-based stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the turmeric lattes, the mats, the props, the leggings, all these discount codes, all the stuff that we need. And
Mm-hmm.
I know from teaching groups who aren't as part of this mainstream
Mm-hmm.
thing that they don't have access to all this stuff because it's expensive, because all the reasons, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
all the political reasons, because they don't look the part.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think self-care is a huge privilege. Again,
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge, who's got the time? If you're on a low wage, if you've got a disability, if you're mentally unwell, sometimes we're not capable of doing self-care. And also one person's self-care is another person's, is not going to work for someone else. So I just think
Mm-hmm.
this whole one size fits all self-care thing. So yeah, I mean, the hashtag self-care in my life with my friends, we use it as a joke. Like it's never
Mm-hmm.
a serious thing. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I just find it really strange. But the thing is, you have the Epsom baths, they're lovely. I just think you've got to be aware of the kind of message that you're giving. And also again, because we're talking about yoga, I think it's about learning about yourself. It's not so much about taking care of yourself. I think it's
Yeah, right.
something's gone a bit wrong along the lines. These are just my views. I'm sure someone will
Mm-hmm.
come along and find something in academia somewhere that disproves what I'm saying. But this is just kind of my instinct and what my practice teaches me. It's about, and also, I mean, speaking my truth is what I'm doing. So these teachers who want to come out and say to me that I'm not practicing the tenet of Satya, truth,
Mm-hmm.
I've got it completely wrong. Like I'm talking my truth, on my Instagram. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the truth isn't always what you want to hear. So, you know.
Yeah, I like that. That's yeah, it's good to hear, and I think that this is chiming with a lot of you guys. So that's really nice, and it's nice to know that the kind of self-care bubble isn't something that's necessarily hits both. Because yeah, you're right, it is just personal views, but then you know what, we're all situated in our personal bodies with our personal experiences, and it's interesting to listen and share. And I think that this is part of the problem in our sort of self-inquiry observation is all our self-care. We're not necessarily listening to other perspectives.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of part of it. I mean, for me, the self-inquiry part is definitely about self-observation. And a lot of the stuff that has come up in the last 10 days retreat has been frankly uncomfortable and grim. Like
Mm,
I've realized a lot of shitty sides to me, and
yeah.
obviously they were always there, but it's noticing them. And maybe yoga is learning how to be comfortable with the discomfort, that kind of, that's just sort of part of it. Yeah, I like that.
I
The
really relate.
thing.
Thank you for saying that, by the way. If I could just add to that, I
Yeah.
really love, thank you for saying that, because I think that it's, yeah, it can bring up a lot of really ugly, painful stuff for me too, the practice. And, like, this is probably not going to make me sound great as a yoga teacher or whatever, but I don't really always want to sit with it, and I will flee sometimes. I do
Sure.
think this is too painful. This is too painful. And, I think that's the thing with yoga as well, is it's, I struggle with the way that it's packaged as this kind of fluffy,
Yeah.
fix your life kind of triumph over tragedy type of
Right.
story, which I see all the time, like yoga saved my life, which I think is a really lovely idea. And I wish it saved my life, but I had quite a tumultuous journey with it. And I still sometimes do. Sometimes I get angry with the practice. Yeah, so I don't know if other people relate to that, but I get angry.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it anymore. It pisses me off. It makes me cry. And you come back to it though. And that's the thing, that why I know that the yoga is the powerful practice for me, because I keep coming back to it. But I've chucked it away and I've gone off in a strop, because it's hard.
Yeah, sure is. I mean, I have got a sort of yoga saved my life story, which I love, but it only I'm quite attached to that particular one. Um, but it only saved part of my life for part of the time, I guess, is the
Yeah.
truth, because there's always a lot of different lenses and a lot of different parts of life, aren't there? It's like it may save one thing for one day and one, like it helped me, really helped me recover from a lot of grief, and like when I had a car crash, it really helped,
I
like
remember you
physically,
telling me
mentally.
about your I remember you telling me about, and all the physical and the emotional help
Yeah,
that it gave you. But like you say,
yeah.
it's not frozen in that moment, is it? Your
No,
life
it's
has not
not
been
like,
perfect since then.
damn it.
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It saved my life like 12 years ago, and ever since I've been living happily ever after with the unicorns.
This
Yeah.
is the thing. Yeah. I mean, it's a powerful thing, but it's an ongoing. I think this practice is a life's work. You have to keep. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. The practice doesn't care whether you've got 90 quid leggings. I bought expensive leggings, and my yoga was still the way it was before. So you don't need all that stuff. The marketing's lying. Like, it is a really. But the thing is, that's why I'm saying it. I love this practice. I'm the yoga dissident because I love this practice, but I don't feel like I belong. I never belonged in the whole wellness space. I tried so hard to fit in. I tried so hard to be one of these teachers. It just didn't work. But lucky for me, it ended well, and I found my people outside. And there were people who were looking for somebody like me as well, thankfully. Teachers who didn't want to work, who didn't want to go to classes with this faux spiritual exercise, yoga size type of product.
Yep.
They want to have, and they want to have a teacher who isn't white. So yeah, I've sort of
Yeah.
plugged that gap. So
Yay. Go you. And I bizarrely, because obviously we both have our different stories and our very different cultural backgrounds. But I also didn't feel, and I should have felt like I belonged because skinny white, but I hated the scene. I didn't like the London yoga scene. Obviously, it's a lot more inclusive these days, I do believe. I'm not in London anymore. It made me want to run away from London. But it didn't feel to me like it was a fit. It didn't feel okay with me. And again, it's sort of different things about it. I'd love for you to talk a little bit how you think your race and where you fit in culturally has been part of that, Nadia.
has been part of the
Well,
the
part of
lack
the
of a
journey of like not fitting in maybe as a yoga teacher, and part of the journey for, these are your thoughts and kind of where you come from in life. I think it'd be nice to situate yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, it's interesting. I've heard a couple of other South Asian teachers talk about inheriting this practice. And for me, I
Mm.
mean, I don't really personally relate to it in that sense
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, I came to yoga as a teenager
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't like as a South Asian person, I don't feel like I necessarily have a massive claim over yoga, but there are, there is a kind of cultural affinity with it, but that's not why I felt out of place. I just noticed that when I started teaching yoga, all the students I was teaching were white.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I had a lot of insecurity when I first started teaching yoga about my ability. This is normal. Loads of yoga teachers have
Mm-hmm.
this when they first get out there. It's, using your voice in this different new way, talking to the class. It's quite a new, and public speaking wasn't something that I was very comfortable with. So obviously I've had a massive growth in that area. I don't have a problem with it anymore. But I did notice that there were a lot of people, and also the kind of practice that I'd done personally at home and with teachers along the way, along the 20 odd years that I've been practicing. There's so many new styles of yoga that
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of coming across that I didn't really know what was going on. It was like the playlist was more important than the asana, and then the asana was more important than the self-inquiry. So it was kind of quite confusing. And but I just kind of got on with it, to be honest. It's not until I left. I mean, I think things came to a head when I worked at a yoga studio, and a lot of the classes on the bill, on the schedule,
Mm-hmm.
um, were quite strange to observe. And I did, yeah, and I was kind of the only person of color in the staff in
Mm-hmm.
that. And then students obviously were still white.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt a lot of pressure when I covered some classes there to kind of do it the way that they were selling it.
Mm.
And yeah, and then I left, and I had a bit of a sort of mental health confusion thing, and then I guess I started writing about it, and then I started formulating my ideas, and this is where we are, And I
Nice.
thought this isn't what I want to do, my yoga isn't to be found in a turmeric latte or
Mm.
in a plant-based, wrap. It's something else more profound. And I felt kind of personally quite offended by that. And also,
Mm.
like I met lots of yoga teachers like the one you described who I remember I had a conversation with one who said, yoga's her way of getting away from it all.
Oh, yes, that's a
It really
thing. I
wound me up.
know.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
just thought, well, I want to practice so that I'm better. I'm a better partner. I'm a better friend. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
better,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm naturally not a calm, tranquil kind of person. I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually very not easy to contain. This myth that people have that when you practice yoga, so you're calm all the time. I
I
mean,
know, right? Everyone's disappointed when they meet me too. They're
yeah,
like,
well,
"Oh
this
my
is
God, you've
it.
been practicing yoga all your life and you're like that." I'm like, "Yeah, you should see what I would be like."
It's not a permanent thing, and it's also I practice because there's so many people I know who practice Ashtanga or dynamic, strong forms
Mm-hmm.
of yoga, and that gets a really bad press because it's like really strict. I don't see it that way. I see these dynamic practices as a way for us to purge the internal. I'm quite a naturally anxious person. I need to do a lot of dynamic practice to get to a level place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have lots of excessive energy. This is why I practice. To get myself onto a neutral place, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not calm all the time. I mean, it's so strange, and all the mala beads and all the kind of decoration. I mean, I don't have any of that. I don't. That's not my yoga
Mm-hmm.
is so simple compared to the way that it's marketed and packaged and sold. Like I
Mm-hmm.
find it's quite amusing. Um, I'm not triggered by a lot of this stuff that I talk about. I mean, it might look like I am, but I was really badly triggered. I know lots of people contact me. I get a lot of DMs from people saying that they find it really offensive, the use of namaste, loads of
Mm-hmm.
things I've talked about on my feed, but
Mm-hmm.
they find it kind of the way it's slaughtered on activewear. People have told me, they send me links to things that there's greeting cards with it being made
Mm-hmm.
bastardized. And I think I sort of see it, and I've seen so much of it, and I'm kind of removed from it now, which is probably why it's easier for me to write about it
Talk
and
about
talk
it.
about
Yeah.
it. I think when you're in the trauma of it, it's too painful. So I
Yeah.
think I don't know. That was probably, sorry. It's probably quite a long-winded
Mm-mm.
answer, but
No, 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 no.
is
Don't
that
ever
okay?
apologize. I love it. Love hearing your chats. But I know that there's going to be a lot of people here who are from Movement for Modern Life, or maybe they've just hacked upon us. and they're not really sure about the cultural appropriation aspects of, say, mala beads, namaste. Like, can you give us a little synopsis, say, of what you think about the greeting, like at the end of class, namaste? A lot
Yeah.
of teachers do it. It's really normal.
A lot of teachers do it. It's really normal. I'm not quite sure how it leaked into yoga. I think that
Mm,
I've met some South Asian teachers who've told me that they've said it too. So
mm,
look, it's okay to make the mistake. Um, I think I came into teaching quite late in life, and I've never done it. So I'm pleased that I've never done it. But you know what? If I'd done it, I would tell you it's fine. I'm not quite sure how
mm,
it leaked into it. I mean, I only ever say namaste to people who are Hindu,
mm.
mainly when I've been traveling around in India or my mum's friends. Um,
And,
I
and again, let's go back. Can we go back a step for people who are learning? So, what is the greeting say to your mum's friends?
It's
Like, when you,
namaste.
and what do you mean when you say it?
Oh, I just mean, so namaste means, the common translation, I'm sure a lot of people know, is I bow to you. I think that's the basic
Hmm.
translation. It's sometimes translated as I bow to the light in you. But, if
Hmm.
we look at the other South Asian greetings, like Assalamu alaikum,
Hmm.
I had a Muslim upbringing, so that's the one that I would use a lot. It
Hmm.
means peace be upon you. So it's an equally poetic meaning.
Mm.
And so we could go on, there's other Satsrigal. I can't remember what that one means. I did look it up, but that's the Sikh greeting. Similar, beautiful meaning. But the thing is,
Hmm.
every time you say it, you don't mean that. You're just kind of saying it because that's what people say. So,
Right.
because this whole divine light hippie stuff started finding its way into yoga,
Hmm.
that's a very convenient narrative, I think, for people to I don't know what to say. Like, it's quite a kind of convenient narrative for people to kind of believe in. It
Hmm.
means I bow to the light in you because India is this mystical, spiritual place.
Hmm.
India is also a country that has a lot of really complicated, quite corrupt and disturbing politics, actually,
Hmm.
which I'm quite interested in. And um, so yeah, so I think it's but anyway, yeah, namaste is out of context. It's a greeting that should be, and people get quite het up about, oh, we shouldn't say it at the end of class, and loads of like big high profile yoga teachers have done articles on for
Hmm.
white yoga teachers on other things they can say at the end of yoga class, and I think that's really great and really helpful. Go and find these links. I don't know why we need to put that much energy in it. Let's just take it out. Let's just
Hmm.
not say it at all. And I don't know. People have contacted me and said, shall I not say it? Can I say it at the beginning? And I just sort of think, well, just don't say it, babe. Like, just get rid of it.
Hmm.
But I think people feel like they need to say something to make their yoga more authentic.
Yeah, right.
If you come to a class with me, it's really straightforward. I mean, I can see people, Abby, I can't see other names, but I can see people who are in the group who've been to
Hmm.
classes with me. It's very, sort of nuts and bolts, threadbare, basic stuff. Pranayama, asana, breathing, lie down. There's no namaste there. So,
Do you give poses in English or Sanskrit?
I do both. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
an interesting question, actually. I do both. I had a lot of, I felt like I should say them in English because I'm teaching English speaking people.
Right.
Um, I use the English words more, and I
Hmm.
use the Sanskrit word. I don't know, I'm quite political
Hmm.
about, I'm sorry, I'm not political
Right.
about the Sanskrit, but because I don't know enough about it, and that's just the way it is, and I'm not an academic, but I know that I've got Indian friends who don't use the Sanskrit names because there's a Brahmin connection with the use of Sanskrit and this kind of like powerful thing that only higher caste Hindus could use it. So I think
Hmm.
but I don't know enough about it, and it's just been ingrained in me. Like, I'm used to hearing the names, and yeah. So
Hmm.
I use both.
Hmm.
Depends who I'm teaching.
Interesting. Right.
Yeah.
And you do chanting in your classes, Nadia?
No. No.
And any particular
Never.
reason?
Never. Any particular reason? Well, because look at the people you're teaching. So the thing is, like, I don't really, obviously lockdown has changed everything, but I
Hmm.
was teaching drop-in classes. Most
Hmm.
people teach drop-in classes,
Hmm.
and I think when I taught I've done a lot of beginners classes, and when I teach beginners classes, I do it based on the Ashtanga method because
Hmm.
that's the method I've practiced the
You're
longest.
trained in.
I've done
Yeah.
every single style under the sun, by the way, for research reasons, and also until I found Ashtanga. And I went to one mandala class and didn't like it at all. But so I've tried lots of classes at least once, but I teach people the opening chant and the closing chant from the Ashtanga practice.
Okay.
When I'm teaching beginners, when I'm teaching a led Ashtanga class, I had regulars. Yeah, I taught them the Ashtanga opening chant and the closing chant because I thought it feels right to me. For dropping classes, no. And I know that there's loads of classes, like Jiva Mukti classes, chanting's massive. In Dharma, again, there's a lot of chanting at the beginning, often in the class. But I don't teach it because I don't know whether the people are going to know what it means or what it's for. I'm not just going to put it there just because it's what we do. I mean, you know, and I don't do OMS either, actually, in my classes.
You don't?
No, not because we've been on Zoom, haven't we? And I just hasn't, and I don't know who people are, and there's no time to explain. And I think Zoom is kind of really complicated things. That's just recently. I do love doing OMS, but I just stopped doing them. I don't know what happened. I think it's because I kept seeing people dropping into my classes, and you don't really know where they've come from, or are they going to feel weirded out, or are they going to chant it correctly? You know, OM has quite a big meaning for me. So I don't think it's a massive missing out to leave it out, but you know, if I had a closed group, I would probably do it. So it's a case by case type of thing, you know.
Right. So it's kind of for you a question of get people having an understanding, reverence, and respect for the Om. Is it like that?
I think understanding what it means. I think teachers have responsibility, which I don't think all of us take this responsibility, but I think we have a responsibility to explain what the chanting means. I think pronunciation is really important. Loads of these sounds are even difficult for me because some of these sounds are kind of different to modern South Asian languages. So even I find some of the sounds challenging, although I've rehearsed them, you know, Loka Ha Samastaha is quite straightforward. I think for even the English palette, but some of the sounds are not. I think you just got to practice, and I think pronunciation is sometimes even more important than the meaning. I think I've heard some yoga teachers, Indian, South Asian yoga teachers say that pronunciation is so important. And you know, when you're a South Asian student, I'm not surprised. People have told me that they've fled and they don't go back. And I experience it now as well. Well, I don't really go to led classes, but I was going to a few just before lockdown, and it really grates on me, the bad pronunciation, because there's no effort even. Like, I'm not saying you've got to get it right all the time, but people don't think they got to try. And I've got a friend of mine who goes to Mysore every year, who's a Ashtanga yoga teacher, and she says that her teacher really emphasizes pronunciation over meaning. So he says you don't even need to know what it means. So I think, you know, people are going to agree and disagree on these points, and I think it's a subject for us to, you know, we could discuss it forever. But yeah, I mean, I think you've got to, I think, look, if you're chanting it, go and do a bit of research on what it means. Also, how can you do it with feeling if you don't know what it means? I'm not going to chant something if I don't know what it means.
Yeah, I think that's a basic, isn't it? For saying anything.
Yeah.
Like, we don't say things unless we know what we're saying in life. Yeah, thanks for that. Next thing I would love to talk to you about is inclusivity in yoga. So I would love to, obviously, lately with BLM, we're talking about Black people in yoga. I'd like to also broaden that out to the entire yoga space, which is young, blonde, mobile, and fit, like this kind of white person doing this, shapes. And I just wanted to talk to you about, how did we get in this way? How did we get in this state? Because I know it's something that you have been thinking about a bit. Like, what do you think it's all about?
Why there's a lack of so all these things, all this homogenized kind of
the yoga body.
The yoga body. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because it's inclusivity. I mean, you need quite. Look, I think the thing is, it's really interesting you say that, because I was coming at it from a different angle, because I think that, you know, I'm bothered by the lack of like the marketing. It doesn't talk to people who live with health conditions, mental health, you know, who have disabilities, who are larger. So I've got
Mm-hmm.
a friend of mine who says that she feels left out because yoga isn't for fat bodies. She
Mm.
describes herself as, you know, as having a fat body. And I'm very aware of all these things, and injured bodies and disabled bodies and all the
Mm.
bodies, you know,
Mm-hmm.
queer bodies, trans bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's always a bendy, sometimes quite heavily hypermobile,
Mm-hmm.
blonde, ponytail type
Mm-hmm.
body. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yep.
that I don't know who decided that, right? But it's just become the brand. One person came up with it, and it's just been copied. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, when I first started practicing yoga in the 90s, we did it in community in church halls, and nobody said namaste. And we had everybody had the same yoga mat. It cost 20 quid, made by Ruth White back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And do you remember the little
Yeah,
logo in
for
the
sure.
corner?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really do. It was great.
everybody had these yoga mats. They were thin. They used to get worn out, so they weren't the most
Mm-hmm.
eco-friendly mats, you know. And they could have,
Mm-hmm.
an upgrade was needed, but the extent to which it's been taken is crazy. I mean, I think it's not, you know. I think so. Yeah, I don't quite know how it's happened. I don't know whether like yoga's ever been diverse, but I don't. It's got to a really severe state where it's not just a black and white thing anymore in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the diversity problem. It's to
Mm-hmm.
do with a diversity problem on across the board. You know, it's
Mm.
just people don't feel welcome,
Yeah.
um, because they don't see a range of stuff. And then obviously now there's this huge wave. I'm getting emails every day from like
Mm.
yoga studios saying that they've got a new diversity. They've suddenly become woke on diversity and inclusivity. They're
Okay.
hiring experts. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
basically, all you've got to do is go and get, you know, just find black people to talk to, find South Asian people to talk to, and think about stuff which I think people are saying that they're going to do now beyond your ethnic wallpaper. Because I think what I see is tokenism all the time. People just kind of go and get a few fat bodies, a few strange, you know, people with interesting tattoos and piercings, or a few black
Mm-hmm.
bodies, and then they think that they're being diverse.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it isn't. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
key. And to be honest, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to take a long time for the industry to change. And I think, you know, I think there's a real absence of South Asian faces. I've said, you know, I didn't,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, there's loads of people online who I see where they think they're being diverse because they've got black yoga teachers. And I think that is amazing. But diversity, ethnic diversity doesn't just stop there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's other indigenous and people of color, and
Mm-hmm.
people talk about how yoga's an Indian thing, although there are kind of Egyptian roots as well. I just sort of think that I find it strange that people haven't thought about this before, but I think it's also like, you know, people talk about white supremacy quite a lot, and there is this white kind of reverence. I mean, I think even on an unconscious level, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm from South Asia, and there is this kind of fairness, kind of, you know, fair skin
Yeah.
is revered. And so you'll see adverts in South Asia with white women. So I think maybe there's some kind of like really underlying, you know, we're drawn to that kind of thing. We're
Mm-hmm.
drawn to white skin or something. I don't know. It's a confusing one, isn't it? Don't think I've got the
Mm-hmm.
answer to that one. I mean, I know about a lot of things, but I don't know about all of the things. I just know that it's wrong, and there's something that's gone heavily wrong here, and I think not
Mm-hmm.
enough people are bothered about it. So, you know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah, good. I think it's something that, as you say, has been going on for a long time. It's interesting that people are starting to wake up. Better late than never. Um, what is it that you would like to see to make yoga more inclusive?
That's an interesting question. Okay, so we just need a massive overhaul. I want to see a
Yeah.
revolution. I want to see a massive
Mm-hmm.
shake-up. You know, if we can go at it, no holds barred, and have anything. I want it to have classes for all types of people. I want to have like injured people, disabled classes for people with disabilities. I want more access to yoga. I want all the cultural appropriation taken out of it. And I want people to mean it. You know, I'd love yoga to be. I mean, I don't think I'm going to teach mainstream classes anymore, because I think there's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of teachers who can go to those classes. People call them yoga bunnies, don't they? I don't know what that
Mm.
phrase means. Why are they yoga bunnies? But a friend of mine who I'm teaching, she's living in Thailand at the moment because she's stuck there. She lives in London, but she was saying to me this morning that, you know, you'll be wasted on the yoga bunnies. And I thought, yeah, because there's loads of South Asian people who want a South Asian teacher. I want to teach them. There's loads of, I was working with a refugee charity before lockdown. I'll go and teach them. You know, there's, so, and I kind of just want to see a yoga for everybody type of thing. And I have to say, I'm tentatively, I want to be hopeful, but I'm quite cynical of all this recent interest because I raised it with there's an Instagram feed I won't name, but you know, she was talking about how, you know, diverse they are, and I looked and they've got the same 3 black yoga teachers that they use all the time, and I'm kind of thinking this is wicked, but I'm also thinking this is tokenism. So, you know, you've got to think beyond that. And also, where are the South Asian faces? Where are the East Asian faces? Well, you know, we need to get some men. Why not get some men as well?
Stop it. Now that is far out.
Do you know what I mean, though?
No, I totally do. And Movement for Modern Life is as culpable as anything else. And, you know, I've always had diversity and difference as something which I'm interested in and something which I'm passionate about. But yeah, we don't have any South Asian teachers apart from Dharma Mitra, bless his soul. But he's not somebody who we're filming with still. So yeah, we lack. I have tried to have diversity, but I'll tell you where I've come to in terms of mobility issues and disability is something which it's quite interesting. So I recorded a podcast on this, but it's so difficult because there are so many different kinds of mobility that, especially if you're doing it online, like if you're doing it one-to-one, you can make sort of little suggestions for things that might fit, things that might not. But online, it's quite hard to make things safe for different kinds of mobilities. But
completely understand that. I mean, I completely understand that. I think that it's a complex issue, right? I think it's a complex issue.
It all is.
I think, to be honest, a lot of the stuff, yoga teachers need to just be a bit more aware. There's too many yoga teachers. People are just going, it's a career move. And I think that's part of the problem. People just, they go and do it as a career move. And then they go out and they're like, oh, you know, massively inflated egos. I just want to go out and teach bendy, flexible people. I have to say, it's much harder. The work I'm interested in is harder to work with people. Sometimes I have a couple of people who I'm seeing, looking forward to meeting them again after lockdown. But, you know, where sometimes I don't always know what to do. And we sort of look at it and we think, right, how should we do this together? And we work it out. And I love that, sharing that exchange, you know. But then there's some really big celebrity hotshot teachers in London and across the UK, across the world, who I know kind of, they must have an easier time of it. You just go out and bust out a sequence, you know, get people to do it, and that's the end of it. I don't really get it. I don't really get where the empowerment is there from a kind of sharing the practice point of view, just going and leading an exercise class. So I think, and you're perpetuating this myth about what yoga is, which is that it's this bendy, you need a really bendy leg behind the head kind of, you know, that's what it is, but it isn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's something else which I think is really cool and interesting that you talk about, is like how yoga fits into because it's kind of slotted into that health and beauty industry with whatever that is. And I think that's kind of quite an interesting spot that it's been taking up, because in a way it disempowers a lot of people, because the health and beauty industry is full of that's the kind of images which you know are I think most damaging to everybody. Like, I read The Beauty Myth at a sort of formative age, and I was just like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
It's something which all of us are, you know, we're stuck in this culture of idealized versions of what we should look like. And that externalizes our view rather than going inwards, a transformative process.
Right, there's a lot of dissonance, I think, in the marketing, because I mean, yoga teachers are doing it all the time. I mean, I'm on Instagram, right? There's other yoga teachers on Instagram talking about how yoga is about acceptance, self-acceptance, and then they're selling stuff that is not making me accept myself, because you know, it's a discount code for you know, whatever thing. And it's very confused messaging. And I think we're all
Mm-hmm.
part of it. We just have to all
Yeah, we
look
are.
at ourselves. I think the yoga teachers, we have to look at ourselves and think, how am I part of the solution? Am I part of doing good in the world? Or am I part of doing,
Mm-hmm.
perpetuating the problem?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how, I think the reason it might have got into this wellness beauty thing is
Mm.
that there is a, look, the postures, we do the postures to prepare ourselves to meditate. If we go boil it
Mm-hmm.
down to basics, right, we do the postures to prepare ourselves to meditate. I'm the kind of person who needs to do a hell of a lot of postures in a really dynamic way in order to sit still. And there's lots of people
Mm-hmm.
like me. And while we're doing those dynamic postures, we sweat, so we purge the body. There's
Mm-hmm.
some beauty element, maybe, emotional purging, um, sweating out toxins or whatever you want to call it. And then we
Mm-hmm.
sit down. And I feel amazing doing these postures. During doing them, very much feeling amazing afterwards. And I think maybe that's why people feel amazing. They feel like they've ironed out their muscles. They feel great.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you feel really confident.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of, yeah, so it's marketed as this kind of like way to make yourself feel good from within. And so maybe that's why it's got packaged in. I mean, I didn't quite know the extent of the beauty thing, but I think the wellness thing, you know, this wellness, this privileged wellness thing,
Mm-hmm.
like I make this comment about how, you know, yoga will save your mind, body and spirit, but not until it's taken all your money, because it's expensive, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the political thing again. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And I like to think that online yoga is more accessible to people, and it can be
sure.
pretty revolutionary in that way. But, you know, I also would just like to, you know, I just sort of need to own it. Like, I own and run something that is potentially part of this machine. And it's the self inquiry and the conversations with folks to help us to find a way for all of us out of this, I
Yeah.
guess. Like, how can we all get out of this alive? Because it's not going to work if it's only one of us. Hey. Yeah. Thanks, Nadia. You know, I'd love to find about, yeah, when and how did it become so expensive? I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. What I would really love to sort of round things off, it would be great if there are things that you guys would like to ask questions about, then that would be really super. I'd like to ask Nadia what you're writing about these days. What are your latest writings?
Mm. So yeah, so this is happening behind the scenes, but
Mm.
I'm writing about lots of things that I talk about on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and I've written lots of journalism that is kind of bobbing about. I think most of the links should be in my bio,
Mm-hmm.
but I've got a big writing project that's hopefully going to turn into a book, and there'll be lots of stuff in there and quite a bit of yoga, and that's kind of,
Good.
yeah, I'm talking around the houses a bit there, but I'm hoping to turn it into a book. But yeah, but it's
Cool.
currently a lot of words that I need to work. You know, it's like a lot of words, and but yeah, that's my background. I mean, I'm a journalist, like I said at the beginning, and writing is right. I mean, it's funny how I've sort of come into this space where people call on me to ask me about this stuff, and I guess it's all come about through the writing. Like I just, you know, was struggling myself as a yoga teacher in this
Mm-hmm.
space and as
Mm-hmm.
a student, and I think writing was my way to express myself and understand what's going on. It's a kind of
Mm-hmm.
therapy tool. And then basically, I guess I started sharing bits and bobs of it, and I mean, I was quite scared to put all this stuff out there. So I have to say,
Right.
I'm very happy that people relate, and I mean, not the haters are going to hate, right? But
They always will.
they always will. Yeah. So, and in some ways, you know, you find the people, and I feel really
Mm.
happy to. People have said to me, you know, you're giving me a voice. So this white yoga teachers, I'm not just here to represent, you know, people of color, but white yoga teachers who are saying to me that they feel more empowered to go and do better work in their communities. I mean, that's amazing. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's white yoga teachers who are like old school from the 90s, who've been doing excellent work, who've got drowned out by this
Mm-hmm.
frothy
Yeah.
self-care stuff. Because, you know,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And
I
they're
that
happy for
really
me
resonates.
to say this stuff too. You know, like
Yeah.
proper, you know, I don't want to name any names because then I'll name
Mm-mm.
only one or two good ones and then the others will get
There's
left.
yeah.
But a lot of my yoga teachers have been white. All of my yoga teachers have been white,
Mm-hmm.
and they're good, solid, salt of the earth people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're massive champions of what I'm doing
Hmm.
because they don't like what's happened either.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think, and I feel strongly. Again, like I work with the people, many of the people on Movement for Modern Life I work with for that reason. It's like they're not necessarily famous; they're just people who have been doing the work for flipping decades,
Yeah.
quietly and doing it. And you know, there's no social media and shouting about anything. They're just doing the yoga, and I just love that. I think that's kind of what it's about, like whatever color. This is interesting. Footprint yoga, Lucy. I've often experienced the pressure when covering at certain studios to conform to the way they're selling the practice.
Me too. Totally with you on that one. That happened to me when I started teaching yoga. I was covering mainly. I didn't get my own classes straight away. Some people do.
Mm,
Not me. I was covering loads of classes, and yeah, I felt a lot of pressure to make fancy playlists. I felt a lot of pressure to do choreography, and now I got the confidence after a while, and I just started teaching what I practice. And so
mm-hmm,
if anyone, go and teach what you practice. If there's any teachers on here freaking out about their sequencing, just
mm-hmm.
chuck it in the bin. Don't worry. Teach from the heart and teach what you practice. And my
Yeah.
life changed. Like, because it does, the self-doubt did used to creep back in again, because you think, oh God, like all these fancy bendy mandala flow type teachers. But you know what? That's not what I practice. So why should I let the mandala teachers teach what they teach, and then you teach what you practice? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
I
felt
think.
that too.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because when folks are, you know, talking to me about if they would, you know, it's lovely when people want to work with us, but it's always like, well, what do you practice?
For sure.
Like the
Well,
rest of it
there's so
isn't.
many. Do you know? I talk about this all the time. Or I talked about it. I made a video. It's on my IGTV. But there's like what makes a great teacher, and I was
Mm-hmm,
discussing that. And I won't go into that now. But I think I had a woman come into the studio that I was working at. She just got back
mm-hmm,
from Thailand. It was like a huge cliche, couldn't get any bigger. And she
mm-hmm,
had 5 or 6 different classes that she 5 or 6 different styles of yoga that she
mm-hmm,
taught. And she was rattling them off, and I was sort of bowled over by all the names.
mm-hmm.
And I guess somebody else might be impressed. I was quite confused because I was working as as managing this studio, and I just felt
Right.
like CVs came to me. But my
Mm-hmm.
first question was like, what do you practice?
Yeah,
I'm
right.
really interested in what you practice. That's what you practice, and then that's what
Mm-hmm,
you teach. We're sharing this thing, it's not about,
mm-hmm,
I know it makes you maybe more employable to have a few
mm-hmm.
different styles, but I think the students are going to start to pick up if you're just teaching them a kind of textbook, you
Yeah.
know, thing, rather than something that is your lived experience. I think yoga is a lived experience practice, right? And that's what we share.
Mm-hmm,
But unfortunately, I see a lot of this sort of cookie cutter stuff,
mm-hmm,
and that's part of the problem in the situation.
mm-hmm.
I'm not impressed by people. I love it when I see teachers who just practice one thing, teach one thing. I
Yeah,
think
right.
respect.
Or I mean, I'm actually totally cool because I'm more of a buffet kind of a person myself. I don't mind if people practice a few styles and they trained
Sure.
in a few styles, like,
Okay.
but so long as you are teaching what you practice, like
Yeah.
it's pretty
That's fair.
straightforward. Yeah. Now we've got a really interesting question. Been managing to get grants to fund subsidized classes for mental health, but funding running out to carry them on. Tips on keeping them running for folks who cannot afford. Oof. I
I don't know. Where
Yeah,
is, sorry, what was the question? Where is that going on? The funding's running out. Are they not going to
yeah.
refund you?
Funding's running out. I don't know. Managing to get grants, but funding is running out. Tips on keeping classes running for folks who can't afford it. That is way out of my. I
Yeah.
unfortunately don't know.
I
I
don't know.
can't help.
I think you can go and like go and like ask for sponsorship. That's what you have to do. This is what charities do. I mean, when I was working at Armala, which is a charity that runs classes for refugees and asylum seekers, they the founder Emily works really hard
Mm-hmm,
to get money and sponsorship, and it's
mm-hmm,
not easy, but
mm-hmm.
I think you just have to go and get some like rich company to put the money in. And
Yeah,
now's
right.
not a bad time to go and ask people because people are feeling quite conscious about wanting to do good in the world. So go and
Yeah.
like capitalize on it.
Yeah, and we've got this lovely idea. Could you organise something where others buy a place for another that can't afford it?
That's an excellent
That's a
idea.
great idea. Yeah, I like that. Paying it forward with yoga. Another great question here. Do you think Instagram yoga has done more harm than good for yoga? Whoa, go. Big
Um,
question.
I'm just going to say yes.
Oh, wow, that's it.
Yeah, I'm just going to say yes because
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's like, you know,
Hmm.
diet culture, all the stuff that's,
Hmm.
it's really makes people insecure. And also, I think it's kind of like, you know, handstands on beaches and,
Yeah.
you know, yoga on Instagram makes it look like, um, it can only be done on
Hmm.
in parks and on beaches in front of graffiti in East London. You know,
Hmm.
it's kind of really lovely. There's nothing wrong with having those
Hmm.
pictures, but I mean, yeah, I don't think Instagram's helped. I mean, I'm on
Mm.
Instagram. I think Instagram's a great platform. It's useful, but it's damaging as well if we spend too much
Yeah.
time believing what we see. And I think yoga teachers are part of the problem.
Yeah.
So,
And we've
yeah.
got Naomi Absalom. Yes. Hiya, Naomi. She is awesome, one of our teachers, and she's like just a flipping amazing yoga teacher as well.
I know.
Yeah. Here's another cool one. I teach for a local authority. They agreed to provide the space to teach. They ask participants to pay what they can. That's really cool. So I
Yeah,
guess
that's
there are
brilliant.
little solutions. Yeah, I agree with you, by the way, on the Instagram thing. I only joined I was a bit late to the Instagram party because I'm more of a words person as well. And I was just like, but you can't summarize things in a picture. And I couldn't quite understand what the picture could do.
Mm.
I think you found a really good way of making a picture talk very well. But it's something that I have definitely struggled with. And I flipping hate seeing bikinis and beaches and inversions. I mean, it triggers something quite big
Yeah.
in me.
I struggle with it. I mean, I love inversions, right? But I don't really know what we're doing it for. Like
Hmm.
I love, I mean, headstand is my favorite pose in the
Hmm.
world because it's the fastest way to just calm my mind and make it quiet. But I do have had, I'm sure there's pictures of me doing headstand on my Instagram somewhere. But I don't know, like
In a bikini. I hope you're
no,
wearing a
not in a
bikini for
bikini.
it.
Not in a bikini. And I'm not saying don't do yoga on a beach, but I just sometimes question why we're using those pictures.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's just interesting, isn't it? The story that we want to tell. It's like we're telling a
Hmm.
very curated story. I'm very considered. Instagram is a place where I put very considered thoughts and
Hmm.
opinions. There's lots of thoughts that I have that are not considered, and I don't put them up there. But
Hmm.
when I first started using Instagram, it was mainly to just list my classes. A
Hmm.
studio owner asked me if I had an online platform. I'd left Facebook and I had nowhere. And she
Hmm.
said to start it. I started it. And that's when the noise started to begin. I started to see all this
Hmm.
noise and people talking
Hmm.
about, you know, self-care and all this privileged, expensive stuff. And the
Hmm.
people I love teaching don't have access to that or the money to pay for that. And yoga doesn't seem to be interested in people like that. So
Yeah.
I have a problem with that now because
Yeah, I think
it's
that sounds right.
political.
Yeah, again, and hey, I like this. It's come full circle, and I
Yeah.
never knew this, but there's a thing at the top that says we've got 1.5 minutes remaining. I didn't know this was a
Ah,
time thing. So we're going to be off now. But if anybody has any other questions, I guess you put it on the thingy and we'll respond if we can. Nadia, I absolutely love talking to you. It's just so refreshing hearing just different views, that you're so bright that you've actually thought about some of these issues, that yoga is political, what we might be able to do. We're thinking about diversity, how we can start to think about cultural appreciations. Yeah, it's been really insightful, and thank you
thank you
very,
for
very
everyone
much
for
for
coming and
joining.
thank you for having
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm going to now attempt to put this on Instagram TV, but I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be able to. So, you know,
We're
don't
making it up
hate.
as we go along. It's all
Right.
good.
Don't
Um,
hate me if I don't manage to do.
It's all been good. I'm sorry if I don't have, I mean, I don't have all the answers, but it's been a pleasure. And thank you to everyone for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.